Hello.
Hello. Hi, Patty and Rowena and Anna
Morning, afternoon,
and Irene and Leela.
co-host.
It looks
I
like
will put myself, I will put myself all cameras and everything away. I still have to work another hour.
Okay.
that's completely
Glad,
okay.
glad
Yeah.
to have you here
You're so happy. Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah, it's winter time in Europe and the UK. The US is not winter time until next weekend between Saturday and Sunday. So I expect us to have a lot of US and not that much Europe. There will be in an hour. We have tried to post it everywhere just to make aware, but still.
Hey, Leela.
Hi, Leela. Good to
Good
see
to
you.
see you.
Oh, you're
You're
muted.
muted.
I obviously just rolled out of bed. Can see by the
How's your
disheveled.
hand?
That's a smaller thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I made this one myself.
Oh, amazing.
I went on Amazon and got splint making material. I decided I didn't like this big ugly the ugly one to be ugly. Has to be attractive.
Yeah, of
How
course.
about your knee? What's with your knee?
Oh, good, thanks, as far as I know. Yeah, the surgeon said basically it's kind of one of those wait and see things. The MRI said that it was like the radiologist said it was consistent with PVNS, which is what I had
Uh-huh.
had in the other knee, and the surgeon disagreed. So basically,
Yay.
yeah, just kind of waiting it, hoping that it goes down. If it doesn't, he said, if it gets worse, just come back. But
Good to find a surgeon who doesn't want to cut on you.
that's exactly, and he was really good. I mean, he did, surgify my last knee, but he was really good. But I really like the fact that he's, putting it off and saying like, I really don't think you need it, instead of just
Yeah. Let me get
my
my
business.
chops into you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So very pleased with the outcome. Thanks for asking.
Yay.
So we we're supposed to have Caesar first, but
But he's not here.
he's in Europe, so he might be here in an hour.
And there was a second person. Was it Patty? That there was like 2 weeks ago, well, two Fridays ago, so like a month ago, there was like a question that we said, you'll go second after Caesar
And we
in the
forgot who it
next one, and we
was.
forgot who that was. I don't know why I was thinking it was you, Patty, but maybe not. I remember we put Hannah in charge of reminding us, but she's also not here right now. So our our outsourced memory is not to be found.
The external hard disk is
Yeah,
not here
the
yet.
hard disk isn't here.
Anybody who says still has the same question a month later.
No. Well, that's what I'm
Really?
kind of laughing that the Caesar, it was like 2 months ago now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not sure if it's still relevant, but
No, I think it is. It's something about, something about work
okay.
and that role, as far as I remember, that is something about work and that role that you have in your work that maintains and stay the same when you change, when you start to see through the self and you start to
Mm,
see and so the motivation is not there. So I think
okay.
it's super relevant still for everyone.
Were you planning on doing a meditation? I have a request for a meditation.
Oh no, we weren't. We
We-
weren't actually because this week there's meditation up. But happy to do one.
what's
Well,
your
just a short um, sanity in the time of a week before the election meditation.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I guess.
Like, with a Fetter view, it's not like it isn't happening, it is.
Yeah.
yeah.
But how to deal with our reactivity around it,
Yeah.
great or small.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
I
I
think
think
that would be really helpful.
I think instead
Listen
of
to it every day for the next 7 days
I think
and
instead of
beyond.
doing a meditation, it's better if we talk about it.
Do like
But a back and forth talk about it.
we could do that.
Because obviously we have had a lot of thought um
Do we want to pin us while you're talking about it?
Yeah, sure. Mm.
Okay.
Isn't it spotlight that
Oh,
I'm pinning?
you're right. You're right. Thank you. Remove pin.
Spotlight for everyone.
There we
we
are.
go. So sanity before the election. I want to say that as a European, um, this is only happening in the US. And for everybody here in America, I know that it feels like this is the entire world and the consequences is for the entire world. It always feels more when you're standing in the burning house. It's obviously affecting the entire neighborhood, but it's only this house that's burning. That's the feeling that of it. So that's the first thing. It's a bit like when you get a cancer diagnosis, to remember that you're not more dying than anybody else. So to just to put things into perspective, that right now here in the US, the media and the rhetoric and it's so divisive. It's so divisive. When Trump talked about that he wanted to build a wall between the border of the US and Mexico 8 years ago, what he has done instead is building a wall through America. There's a complete division between people here. And what we talk a lot about, and where we have our focus very much, it's that, one human heart to one human heart, to remembering that our values is about seeing the other person as a person, even if they don't see me as a person, even if when I'm regarded as an enemy. You can regard me as an enemy as much as you want. I regard you as a human being, and I will keep, meeting you with an open heart. And so it is that one human heart to one human heart. And just like the poem you have in the book, that what is it you say? They had daggers in their eyes. What is that?
Yeah, the ones with real power had daggers in their eyes.
The ones with real power had daggers in their eyes, and
I mean, we're going through the whole thing.
No. It's
is-
just that part. Would you say it? Because do you remember it?
It's very long. I mean,
No. It's just
yeah. The ones with real power had daggers in their eyes and acid in their words, and I
fucking
fucking
despise.
despised their ilk for their menace, their meanness and cruelty, etc.
Yeah, but is that so? Did you understand that, or was he mumbling to you too? But is that seeing that there's menace and cruelty and division and all of that, and when I see that, it's because I'm still holding a mirror. All that is right here. I only recognize the menace and the cruelty and the division and all of that because it's in me. And I'm not saying that when you hear racist jokes that about Puerto Rico being and Latinos being garbage and all of that. I do understand that of course it's cruel. It's cruel to talk about other people like that. And it's racism like that is cruel. So I'm not sitting and condoning in any way to what the rhetoric is. What I'm trying to address is how it makes me feel. And that is where the recognition and from me is, if that makes me feel angry or powerless or helpless or any of that, that's the mirror that I need to look into. How can I support myself in this situation right now so I can have an adult reaction to people being cruel towards other people? Because just because they're cruel, it doesn't mean they're right. And the only way we can manage a situation like that is to be the adult in the room. And we're not the adult in the room when we are spewing propaganda back at them, pointing out how cruel they are and how it doesn't do anything. we can't meet hate with hate. It doesn't do anything. The best we can do is heal ourselves. So when we hear cruelty like that we, with a very calm voice, can say, it's not nice to talk about other people like that. Like we saw a Christian preacher this morning that said that Jesus, he says, love thy neighbor, and that a lot of the fundamentalist Christians, they forget that they're supposed to love their neighbor. They love their religion over Jesus, which is not what was it that
he was quoting another woman whose name I don't remember, but that Jesus said, Jesus never said to love your religion. He said love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
And that if it comes down to having to love either my neighbor or my religion, I'll always choose my neighbor.
Because Jesus said love your neighbor, not love your religion. So it's that really keep meeting everyone with love. First of all, meet yourself with love. When you feel powerless, can you be in a body that feels powerless? When you feel that other people, that they are moving about and we have a complete dystopian future ahead of us and all the fear that we can have about it, can you be in a body where that is? And I'm not calling for passivity or sitting with your hands in the laps and doing nothing. Vote. I'm not calling for passivity, but I'm calling for healing. You can only be racist towards other groups and be judgmental towards genders and non-binary people, and you can only be judgmental towards them when you need healing. And we can't heal anyone until we have healed ourselves. So we need a big heart. We need to heal ourselves, what we feel first. And then when we meet people that are racist or making jokes about Latinos being garbage, can say that this is not, it's not fun. If everybody's not laughing, it's not a joke. When only one group is laughing on behalf of somebody else, that's bullying. It's not fun. And then just stay with that. So it's very calmly and very peaceful in me when I'm the adult in the room and saying, I don't want to talk behind somebody's back. I don't want to be cruel to somebody else.
That was all beautiful and absolutely agree and love that all. I was just going to add, because there's still a week of ambiguity left.
Yeah.
Because we tend to get very much on the thought train of pessimism and worst case scenarios and what it might look like. And because our body responds in kind to whether it is a completely imaginary happening compared to something which is actually right outside of our doorstep, in any moment, especially over the next week, especially if you are watching things on social media and videos that are riling you up in ways where you are completely down the rabbit hole of totalitarianism and The Handmaid's Tale and all of that might come in the future. Take a moment to just feel into the body and notice that you're reacting to something which in this moment is not here. Hopefully it's something which will never be here and that you don't have to address in the future. But even if you did have to address it in the future, it's not something that is currently here now. And it's not something that you currently have to feel and fight and rebel against feeling in this moment. So like you were saying, can you just feel that discomfort that's there and recognize that this is only a pre sentiment, a feeling that is arising before the actual event has occurred. Notice whether it's actually relevant to the current situation that you're in and how much it's responding to just worst case scenarios going through a mind. It doesn't mean that you can't, like you said, be active. It doesn't mean that you can't get out and vote or
No,
spread
but
information and
also
talk to other people, but
keep meeting people with that love and compassion.
absolutely. But I'm saying just in the practical moment where you are, recognizing how much of your distress and concern is about something which is actually here, and how much of it is something which is a product of the mind catastrophizing and worrying about something which isn't currently here and which may never happen. And even if it does come to pass, it's still being able to be present in any of those situations and still be active, still doing whatever you can to make some sort of difference in the direction that you want to go without feeling that fighting resistance against this moment in the way where, in the fifth fetter way, where we're really fighting against reality as it is. So we're acknowledging the fact that this is the way that things are right now. We
Yeah,
are right
today.
now, today,
Yeah.
exactly. We are right now in a place where we have a contentious election. We have very tribalized.
So yeah, but it's also because this election is not about, we're used to an election being about party.
Yeah.
It's about Republicans and Democrats here in the US. That's what we're used to. But this is not one of those elections.
No.
This is not an election between a party.
Right.
This is maintaining the republic or not.
Yes, but I'm
So
saying
it's completely different ball game now compared to what it always been.
it is. But
right now,
where you actually are, actually forgot what I was going to say.
no, but right now where you are right now,
there is tribalism. There is a division and a spewing of propaganda, which we've never had the ability to have to figure out ways to deal with before, because we've never had technology like social media that so widely disseminates absolute falsehoods or any other information.
and where other countries are invested in a certain election outcome. So there's a lot of propaganda online that is not even from the US.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we know that, like, Russia has,
Yeah.
during the Black Lives Matter, we saw that explicitly, where they were giving propaganda to both sides,
Yeah.
and people from both sides were sharing propaganda just to divide the country.
But
And
it's
so
also it's also why what I keep pointing to, that the only solution even to that, it is that we sort our frustration out, where all the second fetter hooks that we have in from childhood, where we feel excuse me, helpless and hopeless and fearful and all of that all that comes up, that needs to be sorted so we can be the adult in the room and then meet the people, because the bigger problem, it's not the propaganda, and it's not that other countries are involved in it as well, and it's not the very, very divided country that we have. It is that some people in this country feel that miserable, that they need to stand on other people to feel better. Just like we have had in Europe. I mean, this is a repetition. I'm that old that I have seen this in Europe over and over and over and over. It's not new if you're from Europe. What is happening here, it's not new. We've seen this over and over and over. And the biggest healing that a country needs to do is to heal that part of the people that needs somebody to stand on to feel better. And we can only help that healing by healing ourselves and meeting the other person, one human heart to one human heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that, and we've said this personally, but I don't think that this election, no matter the outcome, is going to be the end of the issues that we have here, because it's much deeper than just a single election.
Yeah.
But all of which was to go back to that point of just noticing, like any other anxiety disorder or any other moment of panic or depression or anything, being able to delineate clearly between what is actually happening and what is happening in our worst case scenarios in our mind, is now more than ever extremely important.
Mhm.
So always come back to where it really is, because there is a way to feel into any given situation, no matter how dire and distressful it seems to be. And you can have that view because we do not know the outcome. And so it's possible that, for instance, Trump will get in, Project 2025 will be initiated, things will look like the totalitarian hellscape that people are concerned about. And it's possible that that might be in some way the
The healing.
there might be something where on the outside of that, 10 years later, where we end up with some unthinkable from this vantage point change in culture and history, so that we end up with some utopian beatific world where we have everything, but we don't know. My point being,
your point is that even if the worst case scenario, no matter what you think is the worst case scenario, because I know that we have people on both sides here. So no matter what you think is the worst case scenario, if that happens, we don't know if that is the worst case scenario. That can actually be exactly what this country needs to heal. There is such division since slavery here.
well, I mean, there's been such division since pilgrims came and
Came and took
over
the
the land.
over the land. Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Yeah. So there's like a really a systemic healing and love bombing that needs to that needs to happen. And we don't know how that is going to happen. So if we start in the small thing, open your phone and you see something really, really inflammatory. Start by healing yourself. Let's say somebody calling Latinos garbage. Start by healing yourself. That feeling of injustice, that feeling of anger, that feeling of that. Look this way. Is everything sorted in you? And then look that way and heal that way as much as you can. And vote.
I still don't feel like I'm getting to the point
No,
of what I was trying to
the
say.
point is that then after the 5th, if the outcome is not the way that you wanted it to be, just know 10th Fetter, we don't know that this is not the best.
And even in this moment, at any point along this journey, it doesn't even have to be after the 5th. Like at any point, you can take that higher perspective. If you can step out of that egoic, contracted sense of the me with my desires and my concerns and how I see it affecting the world around me in my small fabrication and estimation, that given the conditioning that I've had, given the beliefs that I've been ensconced in, I believe that this is what is needed for the world to be a certain way or the country to be a certain way. I believe people should act like this and think like this and behave like this, mostly so that I will also feel more comfortable if that's the case. If you can step out of that and enter that kind of boundless, formless, more expansive realm where all of this, the entire scope of human history, is just absolutely meaningless, has absolutely no relevance to anything outside of this little tiny bubble of a planet in this little tiny moment. You can use that not as a way of escaping and bypassing and getting detaching from being engaged and active and helping do whatever you feel is right, but as an antidote for that complete gnawing uh pessimistic um anxiety that we tend to be embroiled in, so that you can have those moments of perspective and just, okay, this is like a recharging station where the stress can be limited, it can go, you can have some taste of freedom where you recognize that both of these things are true at the same time. There is a truth down here where people really are suffering and where there really is all sorts of strife and oppression and isms and all sorts of things which are making people's lives more difficult. But there's also another way to experience the world that is much freer and open, and where none of this means anything at all. And keeping those two in balance, being able to find a way to go back and forth between them so that you're not dismissing or negating either, but able to hold lightly even the activism that you're doing down here, so that you're not fully entrenched in that attachment to the outcome of it, fully entrenched to the identification of being the one who is doing the work, who identifies themselves as the person on the right side of history versus the wrong side of history, any of that stuff.
But that is also looking at where it comes from, because
Yeah.
I'm absolutely pro activism, absolutely. But it needs to come from that connecting one human heart to another human heart. It needs to come from that space where it's supporting and it's meeting and it's open and it's embracing. In that you can have activism, but if it's to fight against, then it's forcefulness, and then it's just a resistance to the resistance, and nothing
Exactly.
gets moved with that.
No, it just reinforces itself.
Are there any questions to this very
I saw, hold on, let me find the chat, because I saw Phoebe, I think, raise her hand. Pixel said it's comedy. I'm Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico has been struggling with garbage and waste management issues for many years. The island has faced challenges with overcapacity landfills and non-compliance with environmental regulations. This still feels like we're missing the point of this call. Best jokes contain a kernel of truth. Well, thank you for that.
Phoebe,
Input. And Phoebe said, I have a question. So where is your hand, Phoebe? Here you are. Spotlight.
Here we go. Hello.
Either the spotlight, right?
Hello. And in a way, my question ties in with what you were just discussing about not reacting, trying to have a heart-to-heart connection and not reacting with the. Anyway, Pernille, I was really hoping that you could just I could channel you. This happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was with my partner somewhere, and he went up ahead and I followed across the parking lot. And because it had taken me so long, it looked like I had arrived separately. And a man approached me, a beautiful guy, probably, in his early 50s, mid 50s. And he was from Canada and wanted to know why I was there. What was I doing there? And said, I'm here with my partner, blah, blah, blah. And we spoke for a few minutes. And then I said, by the way, my name's Phoebe. And I held out my hand and he said, I'm Leaf. And he shook my hand. But what he did was he pressed his finger against the inside of my wrist. It was a very invasive, it just felt gross. I was like my body reaction was like, oh, like this is so unwelcome. But what I thought immediately was, don't shame this man. You don't have to like what he just did, but you do, because my tendency is to be a sledgehammer. That's my life.
It's protection. Yeah.
So I thought, no, don't do that. But afterwards, as I was walking away from him, I thought, what would Pernille say here? What would she say? Would she say, oh, that is very unwelcome? Or that feels like, how can I speak for myself? Because I was very aware that I didn't have a voice. Like I was aware that I didn't want to hit him with the sledgehammer. That was like the first thing. Don't smash this guy. But then I thought, but I couldn't speak. Like there was no way to say, oh, I don't like that. or that's so unnecessary, or that's really unwelcome. And I don't think that's, I don't think you're going to get the response you're looking for from that.
No,
You know?
no. It obviously it depends on the situation and it depends on the person doing it. I have that, autistic superpower that there's not much filter, but because it comes from a very honest place, I can say things to people that is not taken as an attack in any way. I have experienced, for example, like you say, men shaking their hand and then they pull me in or they do something where I feel exactly the same like you say, like that. But then what I have done is just like, oh, you really scare me when you do that, or you really startled me when you did that. So they see my vulnerability right away, and they have probably just been taught that putting your hand forward, that makes women feel, safe with you or whatever. And that's why he's doing it. He might not even be aware why he's doing it. He might also be a twat. What do I know? But
Yeah.
but reacting with what actually comes up, that you really scare me when you do that, or you really startled me when you did that. It's not an attack in any way. It's showing my vulnerability that I feel uncomfortable. That really startled me. But not saying that you make me feel uncomfortable, but saying I feel vulnerable, or you really scared me when you did.
Got it.
Then
Yeah.
normally men, particularly men, they react with the opposite of what we actually are afraid of. If we act with attack on a man, they usually react like a man and attack back. But if a woman reacts with vulnerability, a normal man, I mean, not a toxic one that enjoys, bullying women, but just a normal man will be like, I'm so sorry that I didn't mean to do that. And then the whole relationship in that instant is changed, because both of us are standing vulnerable in the situation, that because he could clearly feel something happened. He has no idea what happened, but he could clearly feel something happened, unless he's, an asshole.
Yeah, my sense is he's just so lost.
Yeah.
My sense is he's just lost.
He doesn't know then. Then he does some, I mean, a lot of, unfortunately, it's not something that we teach boys how to be around women, because we have been taught with boys will be boys. So we were the ones that needed to bend ourselves in, and it just made them not knowing how to act, around women. A lot of men, if you smile to a man, he thinks, oh, is she flirting with me? But it's just, no, kindness is possible. You can meet people that are kind towards you, that do not want anything from you, but it's just meeting you with kindness. But for a lot of men, that is like, it's so unusual to be met with that, because the way that we raise boys and men, it's not very kind, and it's not very compassionate. They're very much alone in a lot of things that makes them, go online and find men that know absolutely shit, telling them how women feel and what women act like. And then they go into that incel type of thing where they're even more isolated.
Yeah.
So I obviously don't know in that situation, but what I normally do is just being honest.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'll give that a try.
And if you're in a situation where you feel that you being vulnerable, because like you say, you're a sledgehammer, it's just your survival mechanism. In your family, what you needed to become in order to survive was a sledgehammer. There was no space for Phoebe being vulnerable. So therefore you didn't become vulnerable. So it's something that you need to practice in situations, and you can just do it in your mind when you're in a situation where you can feel that taking control is coming up in you, that sledgehammer is coming up in you. Then just make a thought experiment. What would happen if I right now was vulnerable. Whoa, you can feel the fear already just by thinking of it. Okay, calm down, calm down. Can you be in a body where you're really, really scared and you cannot be vulnerable? Okay, now, what would happen if you were vulnerable? And then, so you can start to feel that softness that begins to come up, because it's what all of us need, even the incel guys and all the toxic men and all of that. What they need is that softness to surface. And like we started by saying, it's the only way that we are gonna, heal the world. It's with, compassion and kindness. But it starts with ourselves.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Phoebe.
Thank you. And then it's Irene.
Hi,
Hi. So good to see you.
it's great to see you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for this conversation, which is so important. I just want to say that I had previously a lot of fear around, these groups that might form and breaking into my home and all of this. And I actually sat with that and asked myself, could I bring myself to kill another human being? And the answer was so clear. No. It was no. That was my answer. Not everybody's answer, but that was my answer. And then I got to the point where it's like, I would probably offer food. I have a freezer full of food. I'd probably offer food. But, ever since I had that conversation with you about not knowing in relationship, and the freedom that has been experienced here, and that is
Wonderful.
ongoing. It is ongoing now.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And what it is also is this absolute trust in life. There's a place that I never knew existed where it's an absolute trust in life, that no matter what the outer circumstances look like, they offer my opportunity for growth and for presence and for, as you say, heart to heart. And trusting life has been such a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is, when you were talking about heart to heart, what I find is that as I'm moving through the world, I find ways to connect. And one of the great and easy ways to connect with people is, so many people have tattoos now. Right? They're like everywhere. And so I ask, like, what does your tattoo looks so interesting. Tell me about it. What meaning does it have for you? Well, I have to tell you, I walked in, my husband had a doctor's appointment this morning. We walked in, and the nurse had this tattoo all along her arm. And I asked her about it, and she lifted her so I could see it clearly. She pulled back her shirt so I could see it clearly. And she said, and she told me a little bit, and then she said, and this represents 3 attempted suicides.
Yeah.
Within 3 minutes of talking with her.
Yeah.
So I just want to offer that up. That's a very easy way to connect with people, and people are so ready to share heart to heart so intimately.
Yeah.
So intimately. Yeah.
That's we started by talking about Americans in Europe and that's one thing that I really, really love about Americans, that no matter who I meet, they are so open. Americans are so open and so open-hearted and so curious and so really wanting to connect. It's much, much easier to connect with Americans than any of the other countries I've been traveling to. So it is, particularly since there's so much division here. But it's really, if you just put down your weapons and meet other people with an open heart, then they are, and we know that from the street we live in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we went to a neighborhood block party over the summer, and it's so funny because it's like, I mean, we basically know most of the people anyway, but like everybody's just talking about all their health stuff and everything that they've been doing for like the past so many months, and it's like we don't really have the filters of like I'm keeping this stuff private, and it's like everybody's just very open
But and that's a
with
very
everything.
very
Yeah.
American trait. So I completely understand what you say, Irene, that you asking, oh, that's really interesting with that tattoo. Tell me about it. That within 3 minutes she's already talking about suicide attempts. And you're right, it's a beautiful, beautiful way to connect with people.
I found that even I used to go to, well, I mean, I still do, but like just talking to cashiers at like Whole Foods or something,
Oh,
and somehow within the first couple exchanges, they would end up talking about their mental health and stuff that's going on, and it's like I think it's really wonderful that we're also losing so many of the stigmas about that sort of
Yeah,
things now, that it is more accepted to start being open about even those things of,
yeah.
one I had talked to him that was like, yeah, I've been out for a couple months. I was having, depression and anxiety and things like that. And it's like wonderful that we're getting to the point where we can just own it and just say, this is an experience that, I was having, and
Mm.
there's no shame involved with, it's not a fundamental fault of mine that I experienced depression or anxiety or something. It's like a human trait that we're able to then
But
talk about.
again, it's also because that you have been in that
Yeah.
room, so you are open. Like you, Irene, she could probably feel that she could share with you
Yeah.
about, suicide attempts. So it's also what we bring into the conversation, which level of openness and warmness do we bring to the conversation, and that always starts with how we have healed ourselves.
absolutely. And when she told me she had 3 suicide attempts, and I said, oh, hey, I attempted suicide once when I was 24. I know exactly what that feels like to be in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when she left the room, I mean, she made it a point to really look into my eyes. She knew she was being recognized and seen.
yeah,
And that's what people are thirsty for, is being recognized, being seen, being heard. People are starving for that in this country.
Absolutely.
Starving.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it is where the healing happens.
Absolutely.
Again, when we talk about, because obviously there's here a lot of talk about how the MAGA movement can even be, but it is really the voiceless that are being seen. I mean, if when you see the MAGA people being interviewed, and I don't like those interviews that Democrat makes with MAGA people to ridicule them. I don't like those interviews, but you see the people that clearly they were not in the league, in the top league in middle school or in high school, and maybe they dropped out of and never went to college. And now suddenly they have a group where they belong. They can take on the red hat, and they have a community with like-minded people where they count, where they matter. And I mean, it's all what any one of us needs to feel, that we count and that we matter. So
Absolutely.
if we can meet people and give them the feeling that they count and that they matter without a hat on, then they don't need it.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I think that's where the power lies, and that's
Yeah,
where the transformation lies. It isn't about anything else. It is exactly as you say, it's heart to heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Thank you so
thank you.
much, Irene. Good to see
Thanks,
you
Irene.
again. And then we have Janine. So good to see her as well.
Hey, Janine.
Hello.
Hello.
How you been?
Um, it's good to be here. What a
It's good
lovely
to have you.
space. Thank you. Um, I wanted to start by sharing a cute little story about our dear Greyhound Julie.
Mhm.
I've been having difficulty, shall we say, lately with a lot of strong emotion and reactivity. But I'm just plucking along. Fortunately, we have Julie, so I get to go for a walk and just be.
Nice.
So the other day, I'm walking along, and she can feel like love very strongly. And so we're going along the sidewalk, and there's this character in a Cookie Monster mask with a carriage, and I think he was a homeless guy collecting bottles. And she's making a beeline for this guy, and so I knew, oh, this is just a wonderful, loving being. So we have this very brief interaction, and she's just so happy, and I'm happy because she's happy, and the guy's happy, and he's talking about it. He found this mask, and people are beeping at him and waving. I mean, it's just this very joyful experience, and I was so grateful in the midst of all this awful reactivity, just to this guy and looking into his beautiful blue eyes. And I said, thank you so much for making my day. And so then I'm walking home, and he's going through our neighborhood, and I had never seen him before. And I can see him going into one property. I didn't really know what he was doing. And then I saw him cross the street. I guess he's going into people's recycling or looking for cans and such. And so I'm walking up the street, and I said, "Hey, Cookie Monster." He turns around. I'm like, "Thanks again for making my day." And it was so beautiful. And then later that day, I was going to a memorial service for a friend, and I was explaining the story of the Cookie Monster and how it's been so hard. But I just came across this guy, and this is amazing. And I'm looking out the window. I'm like, there's a cookie, and this is like all the way across town. I see a Cookie Monster mask, and I'm like, oh, that can't be the same guy. And I was looking at the hand, and the hand was dark, so I thought it was an African American, and this guy was white. I'm like, no, it can't be him. But somehow he must have been dirty or something, because when he turned around, yes, it was the same guy. So I had to go outside from the service again and just look at him. He had a bottle of alcohol and was drinking. I don't care about any of that stuff. I was just, again, looking into his beautiful blue eyes, and just twice now, he has just made my day for existing. So super grateful. That's the stuff of life that I just really warms my heart. I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I guess you could call it fourth and fifth Fetter work. I've been doing daily trauma release exercises, and I'm finding like all hell is breaking loose, basically. I mean, the body knows what to do in the trauma release exercises. So the Kundalini goes just craziness. Rage, primal rage, depths of sorrow, and sometimes with pictures, sometimes it's just the pure sensation going through. Twice a day, I've been attempting to be in this so-called Chamelec gap, where I'm framing an upset in the negative and attempting to just viscerally be with whatever shows up. And I'm noticing that the thoughts about, you're crucifying me, why are you making me do this? And then when I go to the sensation, okay, well, that's a little dramatic. That's not really a match for what I'm actually feeling. No, there's not nails really going into my flesh. Yeah. So I'm seeing, the dissonance between the sensation and the stories that are being told. I mean, it seems that anger is reigning now. And just, it's looking for a place to land. Of course, it can always find a story. I'm trying to just not land anywhere, but ask questions like, okay, so what is this? What is this? What is this without a story? What is this without time? What is this without a subject? And God, it's just, I was watching your video this morning on, I guess it was ninth Fetter stuff. And somewhere along the line, I think I saw a belief that somehow I'm doing all of these practices so I can be fucking free of this reactivity. And Fetter 4 and 5, and it's like, okay, so we have an agenda. Yeah. And somebody thinks that they can do something to make something happen. And I'm like, okay, so great. Where does that leave me? Oh, me. What, and I'm just like,
never ending nonstop.
I feel like a fucking lunatic. And then I was looking at Discord the other day, a thread, and it seemed like these people are not in the lower 5. So again, here's another group that I can't possibly belong to. And I'm like, oh, will you please just quiet with the stories? Just shh. And one more thing that makes it clear about the stories. I had a dream the other night, something to do with a rug that I was going to have repaired, and the guy couldn't fix it, but he said, I'll give you $5,200 for it. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then for whatever reason, I had to leave. And then when I came back, both the man and the rug were gone. So I felt like, wow, I had that and lost it. And so later I inquired, what the fuck does this dream mean? And I saw that, oh, it was just an entire gain and loss story that was completely in the head. It had no bearing on reality at all. And so I realized, okay, I'm like thoroughly addicted to narratives and stories, you know, inspiring ones, movies, podcasts, blah, 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 blah. So what to do? What do I do now? What do I do now?
Well,
I just want
the first thing you do, sweet, sweet, sweet Janine, the first thing you do is breathe. Breathe, breathe. One of the advantages with creating all that drama is that we don't feel, because you're fluttering up there. Breathe and come back into the body. There's something in the body right now that feels very, very uncomfortable, very icky. And that is why you're trying to leave the body all the time and being in the future and being in the past. Ding, 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 back and forth. Come into the body and just breathe and feel right now. Can you be in a body where all this is happening? And just sit here. And if you have that, no, I fucking can't, then okay. Can you be in a body where the situation is right now so icky that you can't be with it? So can you accept the resistance to the resistance? And it's just breathing. This is what is here right now. In your body right now, you can feel your little toe. You feel the smallest toe on your foot. Bring all your awareness, all your attention into that. And then feel your big toe. And feel your entire foot. And if you keep your eyes closed and just sit and notice, if you close your eyes and just sit and notice, how does a foot actually feel? You can feel it's just buzzing sensation. It was a label we put on it when we called it a little toe, a big toe, and an entire foot. In reality, it's just a buzzing sensation. That is all there is. The rest is just labels. So just sit and notice that buzzing sensation. And that buzzing sensation is everywhere. So it's really about slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, and zooming in. And if you open your eyes will land on something that you see. And immediately stories are being created about what that is, what shape it has, what color it has, but it's the same thing. Can you look at something and let that be a buzzing sensation? So instead of, for example, I'm sitting and looking at an image of you right now. I'm looking at the picture on the computer screen right now. So the first thing I see is Janine. And I feel so much love because it's a person and I really like you. And, you know, OT sister and all of that we have in common, you know, you and me and I'm you and all of that. And I see that. That's the first level of it. But then I see through that and know that, well, no, actually, all that is just thoughts. There are colors on a computer screen. It's pixelated. I can see movement. And then I see through Janine, see through the label, see through the sensations I have towards you. And I'm just sitting and noting that buzzing sensation in my eyes that can create a picture of a person, or I can jump back to just seeing shapes and colors without any label to it. Just like I can jump into feeling so much love towards you and jumping out from that and just feeling how it is to be in this buzzing sensation where I can't even put the label love to anything anymore. It's like beyond that. So practice that in all the situations that you're in. Detaching the labels and just being with that buzzing sensation that we have in our visual field, in the sounds that we hear. It's the same with the sounds. Right now, because I'm speaking a language you understand, you create meaning out of the words that I'm saying. And it's really difficult to just hear the buzzing sensation of words and of sounds when you recognize what it is. So listening to a language you don't understand, or if you really want to be hardcore, listen to a language that you do understand, and then see if you can see through the meaning of the words and just hear that same buzzing sensation that you have in your feet. We have experienced that as children sometimes. When the adults, they were talking, we weren't really listening to what they were saying. It was just like a buzzing sensation of sounds that was in the background, but it didn't create any meaning. And the adults would at some point say, "Are you listening to what I'm saying?" And we would say, "Yeah," because we were, but we didn't understand what they were saying because we're just noticing that buzzing sensation. So it's getting back to that innocence where there's no labels to anything. It's just being right here, right now, slowing down, zooming in, and just being here right now. Keep breathing and just being here and here and here. In the sixth fetter, we have the exercise where I think it's Todd who's talking about it, that you look around in a room and then you say blue, and then suddenly you see all the blue things, and you say blue, and you just look around, and it's like all blue stuff is popping out, even though you have seen the room all along. But when we give that cue, a prompt, thank you. When we give that prompt to the brain, we see all the blue that is popping out. And I had a conversation with somebody this week that is terminal with cancer, where I gave them that exercise, but with love. And instead of seeing blue, when you say blue, you say love. And then you notice love in everything. And that is like a leaf we have autumn here right now, and there's wind, and there would be a leaf that is landing. And it's that lovely movement that the wind is kind of caressing the leaf when the leaf is landing. It's almost like love, the way that the wind is meeting the leaf and the way that it's landing, the way that clouds, they're moving. It's almost like, a love declaration to the wind that the clouds formations are doing. And you see that with people walking with their dogs, and the dog is turning around and looking at their owner with so much love and gratitude for being out walking. And it's that if you just prompt your brain to seeing love, then you see that everywhere. And it's just making you present right now to what is right now, and just to pull yourself out of the narrative and just be present with what is here right now. But if you need a prompt to something, that could be a prompt. It can also be calm. So you start to notice calm in everything, even when two people are arguing. You can see the calm between the words. You can see the calm in the movement. Or if two people are arguing and you prompt yourself with love, you can see the love that is happening. Even though they're arguing, they're trying to protect themselves. It is an action of protection, what they're doing when they argue. They're trying to protect something that feels vulnerable right now. It's just helpful to coming back into the present moment like that.
It's a beautiful practice. It feels like painting a painting. When I paint, it's a feeling of what goes where and being in the world. And yeah, that's very beautiful with a leaf and the clouds. And I get that. I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Beautiful. So meet yourself with that love and compassion. Connect with your body over and over and over, because as authors, we tend to be helium balloons, and we need sometimes, to be pulled down back into the body and just really noticing what is actually here. Not what I think is here, but what is actually here right now. And we know that that's not an eye. So there's just a meat suit that is noticing the buzzing sensation. And okay, I can do that. I can notice the buzzing sensation that is here. I can notice, the wind and falling leaves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just going to mention, this wasn't directly related to that, but when you had said about this guy bringing so much joy and love to your day for just existing. You know, you thank them for just existing. I thought that's such a great reminder to remember that if we have that feeling that I have to do something to be worth my existence on the planet, you know, I have to do something to not be shameful or not be racked with guilt, or that, you know, I have to earn my existence here. Just remember that your very presence of just being is having innumerable effects on everything. And you never know what any interaction is going to be doing for those who we interact with, or, you know, what effects you're giving out as you go through your day. And that just being is simply enough. You don't have to earn it or justify it or get some accolade or award or work your way up the awakening scale or any of that to be worthy of being here.
Mm.
It seems very obvious in the case of this Cookie Monster guy and in the case of this beautiful greyhound that we have, that they just show up exactly as they are, and it's cool and it's great. But if I had to turn that around onto me, I'm not sure that I would say the same.
Yeah,
No,
why?
but what is interesting is that Julie is your dog, right? And
Yeah.
she needs to be filled up with love and especially a greyhound that can be like a bit jittery sometimes. You know, so she has to be filled up with something. So you have filled, by you being who you are, you have filled her up so she could go out in the world and meet the Cookie Monster with love and compassion, and him just being in the world filled you up. It is a circle, you know, that is going around, that you have to be in a position where you know that you just being counts. Otherwise, you could not recognize that in him. It needs to be part of you for you to recognize it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. So you do know, somewhere in you, you do know that just being counts.
This is hard. I feel really exposed.
Is it, are there thoughts that rebel, that try to say that it's not so?
Um, no, I think I'm just right now I'm feeling just really exposed.
Hmm.
That's okay.
Janine, I really love every time you share. I love and I relate so much to what you share. And when you were just sitting there, I was thinking that last night I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, and thoughts start running. And what I'm saying to myself is, I love myself. I matter.
Hmm.
I love myself. I'm safe. I love myself. I matter. And I just repeat that. I just repeat it like a mantra. And then eventually it calms me and I fall asleep. And this is what I would offer to you.
Yeah, I have done that in the past, kind of like a mothering kind of thing, which was hard in the beginning because there were so many versions and variations of Janine that I simply despised. I don't any longer, but I still think I have the tendency to ignore them all and just, break on through to the other side kind of thing. Uh no, but that's good. That's that's space. That's creating some space.
Yeah.
And I believe it too. There's a lot of love and capacity there. Thank you. for that.
Yeah.
For listening, for caring.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah. Um, right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Back down. Oops.
Oops. Oh.
Sorry.
Leela.
We do have and then Leela, well, we have this Leela and then Rowena and Todd, but actually I hadn't noticed Leela had texted me and because we do actually have a couple new people here.
Oh.
So as you say, we have our old timers and our new people. If anybody here is new and would like to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand. We haven't, well, we didn't have the last one, so it has been a while since anybody has had a chance to do the Tuesday questions, but we had been trying to kind of prioritize, allow some new people to get in as well. But
Yeah, and it's also just if you're new and you would just like to say hi and you just would like to try, yourself out. You might not have like a lot of things that you want to say, but you just want to try out how it is to be in the seat where everybody's looking at you and you don't have anything to say and you just want to try that, then you're welcome to raise your hand and just we will skip you in front of the line in front of all the old people and then you can ask your question or just sit if you would like that. You're also free to not raise your hand and not say anything if you just want to sit without your camera on and without your microphone on and not ask any questions. You're more than welcome to that. We're not putting anybody on the spot unless they would like to. But if you want to be on the spot, just raise your hand.
And if you want to ask a question that you would like not to be recorded, just let us know and we can pause the recording while you talk.
Yes.
In the meantime, we've got Leela. Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
Oh.
The thing that's up right now is activism, and my for years unwillingness to engage because it's so easy to get egoic around being right.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking, well, if I just got to a certain point in my evolution, then it would be safe for me to be an activist. That's probably never going to happen. So, and the issue that's most pressing for me is trees and stopping clear cuts. And I live in a place where you can't go anywhere without seeing one if you go out of town. Even in town, you can see a hill from town and see that it's been denuded. And I wasn't here last Friday because I went to speak at the university about it. But anyway, I've been watching a guy who's trying to create a community around doing something. We have a forestry school here that's really well known. And some of the people who've done the research showing just how devastating clear cutting is graduated from that university, but the university is still just in line with the logging interests. So sorry about all the story, but so I've been watching the guy who's been doing who's done the most work to try to shift the logging school the direction that they're going to sustainable forestry. And it's really taken a toll on them because you can't go around being angry and depressed all the time.
No.
So, so there's that hesitation of, there's this fear that I will end up being angry and depressed. So far, I seem to be doing okay. But when I went, I'm looking at when people go to speak at these hearings, how nervous we all are, or Well, actually, I'm not as nervous as I used to be. I used to write everything out and try to present a compelling argument. And now I don't anymore. I refuse to prepare. I go up and I say what I say, try to make kind of one point for it not to be something that drags me down or that I spin a lot in my head about it. So I don't want to spin about it. So, um, yeah, being able, I can see that there's a real potential to make a difference right here where I am now, this part of the country. And I'm disappointed that I'm not seeing a lot of people showing up at these hearings. And I'm guessing that I know we are all devastated when we look at a clear cut. There's just this visceral feeling. And every time I see a logging truck go by, I used to be just devastated, with all those dead bodies on it. But now I just do a little part of the loving kindness practice to the earth and may the trees be happy becoming whatever they're becoming, and may the earth be healed. And that's how I deal with seeing a logging truck almost every day. I guess it's, wanting to do a little more and not go into negativity about it. Or maybe just supporting
the
those.
the first thing you need to do is to heal that way. You need to heal yourself first. So you need to find out if we remove the logging, if we remove that, what is the logging a symbol of? What is it that needs healing in you? I mean, for you, you were a vegan activist where you had memorized everything, and that was really speaking for the voiceless. For you, it was, can I be that blunt again? But for you, it was about healing the parts of your life where you were voiceless, where you were in the bottom of the peg order, and you had to obey to what was thrown your way, and that was what needed healing.
Absolutely.
But instead of healing this way, because that feels icky, then it's much easier to go out on the street. Instead of doing second fetter, we do 4th and 5th fetter. So it's being a voice for the voiceless. Instead of looking at second fetter, it's here the voiceless is. The voiceless was here. There's healing here that needs. So you need to first find out the logging industry and all the activism is 4th and 5th fetter. What is it second fetter in you? What is it that needs healing in you, where the logging industry is just a symbol? It's pointing to a part of you, symbolizing a part of you that needs healing. That's the first thing you need to be aware of. Because you can't send loving kindness to them and the trees and the logging industry and the billionaires that don't give a shit because they want money. You can't send love that direction if there's something here that is not healed. Then it's conditional. And that's the recipe for burnout.
Yeah.
Like what you talk about. That poor guy that you talk about that has done so much. If he started by healing this way, then he could be in his activism. It would come from a different place. He would be the adult in the room that has healed the child that needs healing, which means that he would have compassion for all the implicated parts in it.
I'm drawing a blank. I can't imagine what it is. I mean, what I see is devastation.
And then you start to cough, which means that there's something that you don't feel safe talking about, which is okay. Write it down, write all the things down about the logging industry. What is it? It's devastation, it's disrespect to the planet, write all of it down. And then say, okay, there's a part of me that had an experience in my life where I felt devastated, where I felt, what was the other part I said? Disrespect. not towards the planet, but towards me.
Okay.
So you turn it that way, and every time you start to talk about it and you start to talk, you need to tell yourself this is safe to talk about. It's safe to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. And if there's a fear of that, eventual engagement causing anger and burnout in that regard, it's really relevant to keep in mind that that anger is always a deflection from feeling something else. So that guy being, like being in that constant state of anger and disgust and revulsion is
Diversion.
yeah, it's a diversion, but it's calling for you to look into what is that propelling you to do this to begin with. That if you're, you know, like you said, there's how is it related to something in you, but also like being very, very specific about what exactly the emotion is that you get when you see that devastation. Like, why is it for you that seeing a clear-cut patch of land provides that emotion that comes up that it doesn't do to a person sitting next to you? That's just like, oh, they're going to build some new houses. Oh, it'd be nice to have a shopping mall there. Like, for some people, it's completely not even on the radar. So, what specifically is it about your experience that makes that into an emotional event that has some resonance for you? And then feeling that, like really feeling what is happening in the body when you see that. And also noticing, does this have threads in like helplessness, in that vulnerability of where some massive conglomerate just keeps going and bulldozing the planet, and there's not enough people doing anything to stop it. I'm doing it, but there's, nobody else. Do you feel that sense of powerlessness and smallness and all of those things that can be underneath that? And that's really where that anger and burnout comes from, because it's like, it's not really about the trees. That's on one level, but below that, that anger is because you can't feel powerless and vulnerable and helpless and all of that for that many years without having negative repercussions. And so we deflect by it by, but it's those bastards, and like really getting angry, and it just becomes this toxic cycle because you're never really meeting that that feeling underneath, where you can still, if you can come to terms with that powerlessness and do the work like you said to start healing those things that need to be healed, then you can still do the activism and you can be more effective because you have less of that attachment where it's a more about me and less about the trees. It starts to turn the other way around. And it's like, okay, I can do all the work, but there's still a freedom here that can move and be reasonable and speak in, like you said, there's less nervousness, the less ego that is involved in our activism, the more effective we are because we're not speaking from that place of self-defensiveness or self-fear and
For us to feel
self-protection.
better. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can really be available in a way that's different and more available to hear other sides, not get immediately reactive about it, but then also to debate and to present your facts in a more even-handed manner, which can be more powerful and influential than that fists back and forth at each other. So activism is great, but it's really coming to terms with exactly what it is about the activism that is, or that particular issue that is making you want to be active. And then why is it so potent and uncomfortable as opposed to just being something that seems like the right thing to do for whatever reason.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah. And lots of vitamin C.
Feel better. All right, we got Rowena. Hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, really.
Good.
I've had a lot of bouts of anxiety. Um, it's got a lot better. Um, I don't really know quite where to start. Let me start with what happened this morning. I returned from the States. I had a month in the States,
Nice.
returned yesterday morning. So I've been readjusting, and I think the readjustment went really well. And I didn't, I stayed up all day yesterday, catching up with paperwork and stuff. But then it's interesting because I'm back in the place where I was looking after my husband, and how little things then come and, then the body is reacting.
Yeah.
I think it's delayed, sort of like a trauma. And how this morning actually, I'm always replaying it was a very traumatic moment when he was taken to the hospital and they had to the fire brigade had to take him out from the second floor window because they couldn't go down the stairs. So when I'm sort of reliving that, it's just charge comes up. But then instead of just sort of this like a body of anxiousness, it was interesting because it went into much deeper, a bit down, like really down the respiratory. Before I was having sort of like coughing, gagging. Now it was somehow stuck in the diaphragm.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, so I thought in a way very positively about that because somehow getting into really the sort of viscera of somehow how that was all impacted. Connected with that because there's wordless. I mean, I guess you can only what words can you say? I don't want this. No, this can't be happening. That would be I suppose, if there were words. And so that was a real event. There was another event before he died where when I was in England, the house was burgled.
Oh,
And they took actually a lot of, my precious, valuable things, which, of course, I've also been digesting. But it left also a sort of trauma of just not feeling safe and not and sort of looking after my belongings and feeling very insecure. So that when I was coming to America, I think it was like the nervousness wanted me to dissociate, but I just sat with the nervousness and everything got fine. I was at the airport and then I was trying to stop crying because I was there, but somehow the energy of just keeping going and just staying with the anxiety and everything, just something wanted to give. And of course, I didn't want them to say you can't come on the flight because you're, a neurotic person and we don't want to look after you. So I was sort of hiding, and then it went away. I started watching movies, and I arrived in the States, and it was then I was back home, except it's not my home because it is my home, but I have these homes. It's a completely different reality. I'm there, and there was much less anxiety, some anxiety about having to make appointments and things because my husband's American, so his estate was, being handled there. But it all went pretty well. But then coming back, of course, this sort of feeling of something's going to happen. And of course, nothing did. But it seems like the nervousness isn't the point. There's something underneath, more sort of trauma that needs to be extracted because I do the breathing and the calmness comes, but there's not been. I'm not looking for a necessary route, but maybe I am. Maybe I am actually. It's just to get sort of underneath this need to sort of to be with, not even necessarily self-soothe, just be with it and then do it, but feeling that charge of energy, which I'm sure I'm you know, letting spread out in the environment of just something's going to happen when clearly, you know, it's not.
I was do you remember at the retreat that we had those 12 daily exercises?
Well, I unfortunately wasn't able to do the
Oh,
retreat because I was
I
still
thought you
looking
were.
after my husband
I'm sorry.
then.
Yeah. I thought you were. Okay.
But was that the video that you actually shared
I
on
made
his...
I made a video that is not available. It's gonna come up in January,
Oh, okay, good.
but no, in Discord I put in the link already.
Yeah.
If you go on
Yeah.
video,
Like
yeah,
quarter of
exactly.
an hour, and in the end you're sitting in the garden.
Yes, exactly that one. It's
Yeah.
the 12 exercises, daily exercises that you do that is all about embodiment. Because right now you're mourning and you will be mourning for a year. It will take you a year to experience Christmas without your husband and finding out how you want your Christmas and your Easter and your summer and your autumn. And you will be mourning for a year, even though right now you might still be in the period where it's more a relief than anything. It will hit you like, a ton of bricks because you have been in servitude for so long that you don't know who Rowena is anymore. You know who Rowena the servitude is, but not who you actually are. The other day, Todd, he found a journal where he had been writing down right after his mom died. You were in service for 15 years with your mom that was really sick for 15 years. And right after, there was like that numbness where it was depression and sadness and what the fuck and all of it together. And it is like that for a year. But doing the daily body exercises help you embody it into the body, into the body, into the body, and cry when you cry and laugh when you laugh, go for a walk when you want to go for a walk, feel despair when there's despair, really just allow all of it to be there. Do the daily body exercises that will help you really being present right now, but also allowing all your joints from the spine, from your shoulder joints, your hip, your knees, everything to release whatever, is being stuck or not wanting to be felt or not wanting to be here or resistance of any kind, just by very, very softly every day doing the daily exercises, and it will help you heal.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff was pre-birth already,
As well.
Yeah.
But right now I think right now it's the first things first.
Yeah.
And right now there's you are in a transition period where you have been second for so many years, and now suddenly,
Yeah.
what do you do with, I mean, it's like, finding out that you're not second and you can actually go to bed when you want to go to bed and scroll on Facebook when you want and watch a movie when you want, go for a walk when you want. That freedom that is suddenly there is odd.
And also, it's the whole thing of identity, because I met up with some old friends in the States, and I felt, and I did all my spiritual journey, all my healing stuff, the healing things that I did. Did sound healing and various other things. Everything was related there, and I could feel, in a way, that sort of drawer and coming up. But then coming back here, the energy shift is so big. And today I was looking, sort of doing some order, throwing out. And what I would have said if I had been in the States, I would say, yes, that there's still an avenue. When I'm here, I'm looking at everything, and there's loss of old ways that I identified with, which worked in America, and here nothing does. It's very weird. And so I know that I just have to, move with that. So there's really nothing to hold on to, because this whole situation with my husband we've been living in the same place, but we weren't. And so we're in this sort of, it's a real nomad's land. It's very peculiar because there's no stability or consistency.
Yeah.
And the UK, where's my family, I haven't lived there for 40 years. And of course, there is something, but it seems far away. And it was when I was much younger. So
Yeah.
it's odd.
Yeah. Do you want to say something? You've been in the same situation.
Yeah. I mean, you were really, you're spot on with that. Yeah, it's really about the being self-compassionate in all the ways that you have maybe been reluctant to be in the past, and to um, be very, you know, caregiving for yourself at this point, and make sure that we're not using the non-dual lingo to bypass any of what actually needs to be felt and done at this point.
Yeah.
And at the same time, also being very just present with the way that things are, without making it into a new story about, well, this is, that was my life then, and this is something new, and now it becomes another whole layer upon, it's just recognizing the difference between how things feel and experienced in this place, and let that be also a reminder about the deeper truths of impermanence, and the deeper truth of the constant fabrication of what we take life to be, outside of the, you know, um, even though it's the same house, all of a sudden the house feels completely different.
Yeah.
It shows you that it was never the house to begin with. It's the situation with all the amalgam of people and events and everything. And so just letting that the wisdom of every given moment be available to be seen and recognized. And it's wonderful, because it's a time when you can be nourishing, self-healing, and then also just finding so much teaching in every moment if you're open for it. So it's a really challenging at times place to be, but with so much fruitfulness in there if we're just open to being present for it. Um,
I
and
love that.
yeah, but just so you're in my heart with everything that you're going through, and I
Thank you.
completely.
Yeah, I mean, when I was sort of observing this, just watching everything, I could really feel that's just all, I suppose, the seventh fetter making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And when I was when I was in the States, looking at places that were so familiar and saying, oh, that's, you were making something out of nothing then unconsciously, and now you can let it go. And so I think I am pretty connected with seeing.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's just sort of at the same time, very sort of movemented.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
wonderful.
you. And I'll find that video and start doing that
Yeah,
again.
it is on Discord under the video share. Lots of, if you scroll back,
perfect,
the
yeah.
link is there, and then it's going to be publicly available in January, but it's
Okay.
available for you guys now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So good
So
seeing you.
lovely to be with you.
Yeah,
Good to have
thank
you
you.
here.
Lovely seeing you.
I,
And it's so sad he had a question, but I don't know where he went.
his hands has gone up and down a couple times. If you're still here,
So
still
if
have a
you want to say
question,
something,
please
we
raise
are
your hand.
ready for you now.
He left.
Oh,
He left. Okay.
Sorry about that. All right. Does anybody else have a question?
Leela, you're not marked right now, but you asked us to do the meditation. Was the things you had sorted out with the non-meditation in the beginning?
Not meditation. The talk.
I don't know if I'd use the word sorted out. I just appreciate the discussion. I think
Okay.
it's up. I'm noticing, this, well, I was going to use the word, it was trumped by my family's reactivity triggers last night, but there was an undercurrent of just low level kind of reactivity to tuning in and listening to what I was hearing. And then my family dialed up the Geiger counter, so I had that to work with instead. So it's just an ongoing
Mm.
It's an ongoing noticing. Yeah, notice. Okay. This is the thing: is the bubble of reality does get challenged when I look at my inner Trump or my inner Musk or my inner whatever. And you made it. What you said today actually helped, because it's not that they are that I'm creating them or what they say, but it's my reaction to it
Yeah.
that is in my bubble, not
Yeah.
the whole thing.
No,
So
no.
I kind of had this sort of like the bubble is everything, because in day-to-day interaction, it's easy to see how the bubble is everything. Like I even see, I hear, I just heard this really interesting, I don't know if you've ever heard sine wave speech, but it's like, so it's speech without the meaning.
Yeah.
And then you tell the person what it was that the person was saying. I have to go to the bathroom. And all of a sudden you hear it immediately in
Yeah.
the speech,
Completely.
right?
Yeah.
So I was always of the belief that I was creating even the words falling out of people's mouths, like
Mm.
I could really see how my point of view created the whole thing. But in this case, it's more about my reactivity. It's more about
More about your
noticing
trauma. Yeah.
where there's a reaction,
Yeah, it's more about your
hearing
trauma that
stimulus.
whatever we when we get provoked or get, reactive to something that is said, it's because there's something in us that is not healed. There's something in us that needs our compassion and love. Um, and that is where we need to be the adult in the room and start healing this, and then we can turn it the other way.
Yes, and I can identify the little seed of forces beyond my control, or
Yes.
innocence will be harmed by
Yes.
forces beyond my
Absolutely.
control. And
Absolutely.
the things that do trigger me is when I hear about the big plans that Musk has to, and everybody that has power, and I feel kind of like, well, okay, here we go for the ride. But it does trigger the sense of being a tiny creature with a huge wave coming kind
Yeah.
of feeling. Yeah.
And I also think it's because when we're kids, we are very much alone, with being that tiny being, and everybody's big, and whatever they want to do, that is law, that is how it's gonna happen, and we have no say. And that part needs to be healed. And when it's healed, you suddenly see that, but hang on, there's one Musk where 300 and how many, 80 million
Something like that.
small beings.
Just in the
This
US.
is so much bigger than one billionaire. But you see that you kind of get things into perspective when you're not suffering from the trauma and the survival mechanisms anymore. It just things are really in perspective.
That's what gives root to all the conspiracy theories, because at the root of all of that is the feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The big mysterious big they
Yeah.
has
It's
control
spirit.
of me and my life,
Yeah.
and they have a plan to squash me out. And
It's
so
why we keep saying that the lower fives, it's about emotional intelligence. You are working with all the old shit that just makes you more emotionally mature. You just see things for what they actually are and not what you think they are. And then you can't believe in the conspiracy theories anymore. And you do not feel that you're squished by anyone because, yeah, you're the adult in the room. Wonderful.
Can I just say one quick thing about the
Yeah,
bubble of
yeah, go on.
reality too? Just because it's an interesting distinction that you brought up, and I think it's where we could say on one hand, like there is a foundational level of something out there which we're all experiencing. So like if one person spoke in a room and everybody speaks the same language and it was just one sentence and you ask them to remember this one sentence, the stone is made of glass. And then you ask a minute later, what did that person say? And probably everybody, if they were really attentive, would say the stone is made of glass. But so we're hearing something which is consistent enough that the brain isn't completely fabricating the words from scratch. There is something that's being heard and interpreted and understood, but the interpretation of what that means,
Yes.
the thoughts and images that get triggered in the mind, the emotional response to it, all of that is your unique bubble. And the tone of voice, the way that you even hear it being expressed, what was he trying to convey underneath that? I sensed a hint of danger in there, or, I don't know, I thought it sounded really mellow and kind of meditative when he said that. Like, all of those things are our bubble. So there's like a base level of reality, which is that untouchable thing that none of us have the ability to actually experience directly, because everything that we experience is a processing and fabrication of it by the brain. But it's like, so yeah, I think that's
No, but also that if you could ask all the people in the room, so what did he say? The stone is made of glass. But if you ask, what does that mean?
yeah,
You would suddenly get,
exactly.
oh, the stone is fragile.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's the stone. The stone is fantasy because there's no stone that is made of glass. Oh,
Yeah.
the stone is fabricated because there's no stone that is made of glass. You would have three different
Exactly.
opinions if you asked three different people. And that opinion of what was actually said, that is where the bubble comes up.
Exactly.
That is where the trauma is represented, and that is where we can really hear from the verbal indicators how what are you actually saying about how you perceive the world.
Yeah.
The stone is really, really fragile. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
And then you will see that person that says that they have an issue with feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
But so there's a difference in the bubble in the lower fives and the upper fives, because in the upper fives, just the idea that you would say stone.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's a
Yeah.
meaning-making label
Yeah.
being thrown on color, shapes, or not even synesthetic
Yeah.
or energy or whatever. So I jump in my inquiries, I jump back and forth between
Yeah.
that interpretation of the bubble meaning and the higher five interpretation of the bubble meaning, which is any label, even the stone is made of glass, is actually a fabrication.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there isn't really a bubble in that way anymore in the higher fives. But
Right, it's sort of a universal.
yeah, it's more a philosophical debate that we can go into, because the eyes can only see what I recognize and all of that. But so
But yeah, I mean, I think it's at that point where when you can recognize that there is
But there is a bubble,
But-
Pernille, because depending on your conditioning, if you see a rope, you're going to say it's a snake. You're going to say it's a rope. You're going to say it's this, depending on your conditioning. So there still is an element of biological bubble.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Right.
there's
It's not
no
personal.
what I meant is there's no identification to what the bubble is perceiving anymore. So, and that's but we need to discuss that.
Yeah, because it's there. I think fundamentally there's no way to experience anything without that bubble. I
No.
mean, there's no way to have no matter
No
how
matter what.
federalist we are, we cannot have a completely unfiltered experience of anything. It's just not in our biology. So I agree, whether, if the conditioning is even worked through so that maybe you lose your fear of snakes, and or at least it's tampered down, and you're more like calm and relaxed and less jumpy, and maybe you see a rope, and maybe there will still be some sort of vague association, or maybe there will still be something biologically that arises, some sort of sensation. But yeah, it's the stories about it, the association and all of that that start going in those first fetters. And then more and more we can
In the sixth fetter, we
recognize
completely dissolve all that.
that that's not a thing, that
Mm.
they don't actually exist in that way. But we can't say what it actually is. I mean, there is presumably either a biological creature that moves like that, or a piece of rope that's on there that is made of, hemp or plastic or something. But fundamentally, we can't say what that is from our perspective. We have to rely upon these sort of mid-level, like, scientific explanations for things, which can describe things on one practical level that is useful to a degree, but it doesn't get to that internal experience and how that is um, ungraspably different from person to person and from moment to moment, and has no foundational reality of its own beyond our projection.
Mm.
I was talking in another group about something similar to this, because any point of view really is identification,
Yes.
Yeah.
even if it's taken as a purely mechanical perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where you get kind of confused in the later Fetter discussions
Yeah.
about how our interpretation creates reality, right? And what is, even though there's no self there telling itself a story or even having a fight or flight reaction to the snake, there's still conditioning, which
Yeah.
creates the thing that one person will see a snake and one person will see a rope. And that continues all the way to what these people were calling post-omni. This was a POK group. So this POK group was talking about how we're all still conditioned to perceive things a certain way, right? But there's no meaning ascribed to it anymore.
And no
Yeah,
attachment and no.
No, but I would say also even that awakened view of, you know, seeing through the seventh fetter and the eighth fetter with no self and no knowing, all that, that's all a conditioned view. Like
Right.
it's not losing conditioning, it's effectively changing the conditioning. We're changing the maybe destructive identified self conditioning that has been
But
brought
it's
up to
just
the
a new
next. It's just
conditioning.
new conditioning. There's no way to completely bleach all of this in a way that just destroys everything. And in that regard, it's that is just, we are conditioned creatures. I mean, literally everything is causes and conditions, and the brain and the creation of experience and all of that is not separate from any of that.
So I was using the word meat suit, and they said, well, that's your ontologic view, right? That there is a meat suit and that blah, blah, blah. So it's just that everyone who opened their mouth could not help but betray that even as far, quote, advanced as they are, they still have conditioning influencing.
Because you open your mouth. It's
Because you
also,
open your mouth. Exactly.
the moment we open our mouth and we start to talk about, what was it you read for me today that in the book?
Yeah.
There was,
which one was it?
I'm thinking about the one that a foot is not a foot, but it's not a foot. Then I can't remember. I'm gonna find them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It was trying to,
Yeah,
but I'm trying to think what the
you've read so many of it, but it was that one that we can't put ourselves into an opinion.
oh, the
It's
one
not.
about arguments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one that about that I cannot be right
Yeah. Would
and
you like
you
me
are
to read
wrong.
that?
What?
Would you like me to read it, or just?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
I know which one it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's great. But it's that I'm not right and you're not wrong, and you're not right and I'm not wrong. And if we're sitting and having an argument and another person comes in, that person cannot say that you're right and I'm wrong. That wouldn't be right either. Like they can't say that I'm right and you're wrong.
I'll just.
Could you read it? Yeah, he says it so much better. I'm butchering it.
No. Yeah, I mean, you effectively summed it up, but so this is trying to, and it is from the it's a book, The Inner Chapters. Okay. Suppose you and I have an argument. Suppose you win and I lose. Does that mean you're really right and I'm wrong? Suppose I win and you lose. Does that mean I'm really right and you're wrong? Is one of us right and the other wrong? Are we both right and both wrong? If we can't figure it out ourselves, others must be totally in the dark. So who could we get to settle it? We could get someone who agrees with you, but if they agree with you, how could they decide who's right and wrong? We could get someone who agrees with me, but if they agree with me, how could they decide? We could get someone who disagrees with both of us, but if they disagree with both of us, how could they decide? We could get someone who agrees with both of us, but if they agree with both of us, how could they decide? Not I, not you, nor anyone else can know who is right and who is wrong. So what do? Wait for someone else to come along who can decide? What is meant by an accord? What is meant by an accord reaching to the limits of heaven? I'd say right isn't merely right, so isn't merely so. If right is truly right, then not right is so far from being right that there's no argument. And if so is truly so, not so is so far from being so that there's no argument. When voices in transformation wait for each other to decide, it's like waiting for nothing. An accord reaching to the very limits of heaven because it's endless. We live clear through all the years. Forget the years. Forget duty. Move in the boundless, and the boundless becomes your home.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. The moment we put a word on to anything, it's shaped into something that it not actually is. And I love when he says duty.
Yeah.
In the way that I hear duty is about guilt. You know, it's about the toxic starting point of fear, anger, guilt, and shame. Then whenever we are tied into that and we're motivated by that, there's not even right is on the table in any way, because it's just a conditioned reaction.
Yeah.
So there's this feeling that language makes something out of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you're past and you've seen through that something out of nothing that's being created just by opening your mouth, there was a thought here that there was a way to live in pure freedom from all of that in 8, 9, and 10. But in fact, it always is there. It's just a matter of noticing it and being aware of it and not being identified with it in any manner, shape, or form.
And knowing that every time you open your mouth, you're wrong. And every time another person opens their mouth, you know, they're wrong and they're right, you know?
Right.
So
there is
so
no right or wrong.
Exactly. And that makes it so easy for one human heart to meet one human heart, you know, to just meeting on that level. And whatever they have in their backpack that makes them spew bile over everyone, you can just meet them with that compassion, because you know it's not truth. It's just condition that is spewing out of their mouth that needs to be healed, and they're not in a position to hear it, but you can hear it. You can hear it so clearly because you're not attached to anything being in a certain way, which means that you cannot set the other person free to, you know, spew bile over other people.
What would we talk about if we set everybody free to spew bile? There'd be nothing. We talk about the leaves and the wind, and
yeah, and we couldn't even talk about that, because even with the words on that, it's conditioned by something, and that is why often silence is so potent. That the best gift you can give another person is an ear, you know, just not the Van Gogh way, but you know, just but giving, you know, your attention and your compassion to another person, and just listen to what they have to say. Very, very often when people, they start blah 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 blah, they're talking themselves dry, and then there's real truth start to come out, and you can actually have a real conversation when all of that is out. But they're so used to spew, and people react, so they never get any deeper than that level.
Yeah, that was the other last thing you said today that I took home, was drama is a distraction from feeling.
Yeah. Always. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Leela.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything. Thanks for all your
thank you for all your help.
Appreciate it.
Do you unspotlight everyone? Okay, I think that was it.
Thanks, everyone.
Next week it's a
Friday Q&A.
Friday Q&A.
Yeah, and the time still hasn't changed at that point for us for the next Friday one, right?
No, it has.
Has it?
Yeah, it changed on Sunday, doesn't it?
Sunday?
Yeah. It's on the 3rd.
Is it? Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So on next week, Friday, everything is back to normal, where it's 12 o'clock our time.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody like has Australia changed.
No,
that?
I don't know about Australia. I was
changed.
going to say about Europe and UK.
Yeah.
So back to 12 o'clock our time, 6 o'clock Europe time, 5 o'clock UK time on Friday. And it's Q&A, written Q&A on the Awakening curriculum channel. And if you can't participate or if you're not a member, then you can write the questions in Discord and then we reply to that.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
that was it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been
Great seeing
wonderful seeing
everyone.
all of you.
Have
Been
a
so
wonderful,
Hi, Sus.
wonderful week. Hey.
So good seeing you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.